How's it going, you guys? AZPlow21 back again with another WMMA 5 video here in my UFC save. As you can see, top left corner, we've got the UFC Fight Night that we're coming back to literally a day after the previous fight night we just had, which was Ladimaki versus Gadella. A lot of gameplay on that one. This one's going to be a little bit of a shorter video just because we don't have to advance the days up to the fight night. Fight night's already here, so just take care of our emails right here, and we'll get this fight night underway. It should be a shorter video, a little bit more for something for you guys to watch, because I know you guys love watching these. So taking a look here, Elsie Blakeney. These are all going to be, from the Invicta and ROC kind of category, just because a lot of these fighters need to have their contracts renewed. And taking a look at Blakeney, 3-7, I already cut her, so she will not be in Invicta anymore. But taking a look at here at Talita Nogueira, 10-1. She's been in Invicta for 3 fights already, and she's won all 3 of those fights. And according to the world ranking, she's the number 6 featherweight in the world, a division where I desperately need good fighters. So I've already negotiated a contract with her, and she will be moving up to the UFC, and she'll be making her debut soon at the ripe young age of 36. But nonetheless, Nogueira will be in the UFC, so congratulations to her. There's 40 emails, so maybe not as quick as I thought. I'm going to have to go through all of these. So 11-1-1, Andrew Clamp. And he's got 2 wins. And light heavyweight, we can always use people in the light heavyweight division. Not very much name value. I'd still like to see him win a couple more fights. So give him that contract offer. If he can win some of those fights, he can come right up. Still only 30 years old. He'll be fine. And so got to put his name in the notebook as well. Andrew. And we are good to go. Bruce Soto. Let's see how he's been doing. 14-3. He's coming off a win as well. He's won twice, but over the same person. So not particularly impressive. So I'd still like to see him, get another couple fights in. If he can win those, he'll definitely be right up. I like to bring people up when they're on at least a 4-fight winning streak. If you can win 4 straight fights in ROC or Invicta, I'm pretty sure you can do fine in the UFC. Or if you're the champion, you automatically get called up. So Grant Dawson, 12-3. I like the record, but he's coming off 2 straight losses. So I'm actually gonna sign him up, but send him right back down. And he's still got a ways to go. So I'll keep him around just because he's young. He's a prospect, but he's not exactly shown me anything very good. Typically, I just like it if you win, or if you have large name value because you can sell pay-per-views. And this guy, Terry Brazier, I know he's lost those 2 fights to Bruce Soto, and you can't win 2, or you can't lose 2 in a row to the same person and be particularly of interest to me. So he's got an okay record, but I'm actually going to let him go. I'm not even going to let him have his last fight. I'm just going to straight up cut him, so he can go onto the regional circuit, hopefully have a couple of good performances. Coming to Tyler Diamond now, 11-0. I like the undefeated record. He's got 2 more wins under his belt. I'd still like to see him do a little bit more. So if he can stay undefeated in these last 3 fights, he'll definitely come up. He'll have a little bit more name value. And we'll see. Jeff Neal. I know Jeff Neal is actually in the UFC right now, but in this game, he's still not that good, and he's actually got a loss under his name. It kind of sucks because this mod, this mod is actually very, very old, so not doing the best job of analyzing, the potential of some fighters like Jeff Neal, who's coming off a really good win. He was able to get into the UFC via the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series, as you can see there, but not having a great go of it here, and he's got both of his fights as losses, so I'm going to let him go. Hopefully he can get some wins under his belts elsewhere, but you are not needed in ROC, sir. Muhammad Daris, 5-2. Still got a long way to go, but he's actually lost both of his fights as well. 33 years old, not necessarily even a prospect, so I'll go ahead and let him go. Alright, so he is let go. Dean Hawkins, they're trying to sign him. I think that's the guy from 1FC I really liked. And we're the only one he's considering, so that's good. So he'll be signed up eventually. Caitlin Squires, 7-6, a bantamweight. She's coming off a win though. She's very back and forth. She started out with 3 straight losses, won 4 local fights, and then she's just been back and forth. I'll keep her around just because she's a fighter. She's only 24 years old, so she's still got a long way to go. But she's a name, not even a name. She's a fighter that, like, even if she's not going to be doing very well down in Invicta, she's still there for like the young girls to fight, and she's like obviously 7-6, so she's winning and then losing. So she's a good gatekeeper for Invicta, you know, able to test out the young prospects down there. Not necessarily going to be a huge contender or anything like that, but she's a good person to have around. Eddie Arizmendi, 24-12, 36 years old though, coming off a loss, and not exactly someone that. Well, he's 36 years old. He had a big winning streak before he lost this recent one, and I don't know. Like I said earlier on, though, good to have some people around to fight the young guns. So we'll go ahead and re-sign Eddie. So Eddie, Caitlin, and Tyler. Got to put them names down here. All right. Eddie, Caitlin, Tyler, and Terry I let go of. Grant. All right, he's on there. You got it. All right, so Coco also needs to be renewed. 7-2, strawweight division, coming off of a loss, and she's got a lot of fights under her belt. You can see here all of her fights have been under my banner. A lot of unanimous decisions. But you can see there, all of her fights have been with Invicta, so definitely well known in Invicta. And we're going to keep her on, give her 4 fights. Hopefully she can get something going. All right, Coco signed back up. Ian McCall. Did I need to re-sign Ian McCall? I have not made... He's coming off a win, so I'll keep him around. All right, so Uncle Creepy back in the van. Gianni Suba, I really wanted that guy, so let me just make sure I'm going to keep a hold of him. Currently the only one he's considering, that's good. Ooh, he's coming off a loss, though. What is that? He is coming off of a loss. That's right. He was ranked the last time I looked at him, so now Gianni will have to go to ROC for a little bit. Alright, so Jonathan Mounier. This guy already took a look at his contract. Sean Brady needs to be re-signed. 10-1, coming off of a loss. Give him a couple more fights. I really like having this feeder system. You know, it's a good way of just, filtering out the really good prospects from the bad ones, because, they're all fighting each other down there, so anyone, the top ones that come out are going to be really good, and you know it. Valentin Moldavsky, coming off a win. Give him another 2 fights or so. Hopefully he can impress. He's making peanuts, and $1,600 to show, $1,600 to win. That's $3,000 if you win. That's not enough money to live off of, sadly. Sam Alvey's back. Claudia Gadella needs to be resigned. I will definitely do that. You can see her off that last win over Latamaki after losing her title. Give her another 7 fights for $145,000 per fight. That's perfectly fine. She deserves it. Alright, Shinzo Anzai coming off a win as well. Beat Zach Ottow in the last video. Go ahead and give him another 3 fights or so. That's good. Alright, Anzai is back in. Ryan James, coming off a win over Marvin Vettori. Has 2 straight wins under his name after losing 3 straight, so a good way to bounce back. He'll go ahead and get 3 more fights in the UFC. I think he's like 41 years old. Yeah, he is, so this might be his last contract with us. We'll have to see how that plays out. This guy's coming off a loss. I think 2 straight losses. Yeah, 2 straight losses. Not looking good for him. And he's not even young enough to send down to ROC, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut him. So it was a good run, Marcos de Lima, but go ahead and enjoy your MMA elsewhere. Amanda Bobby Cooper coming off a win, but she's 8-8, so I'll go ahead and re-sign her for 4 more fights. Watch her end up being 10-10 after this. That'd be pretty funny. I remember her when she fought against Mackenzie Dern. Everyone was really going for Amanda Bobby Cooper just because of everyone hating Mackenzie Dern because of her weight cut issues and things like that. And then she just got murked immediately. So Mkhitaryan coming off a loss, but he's been doing, pretty steadily okay in the UFC, so we'll give him 3 more fights. Alright, so Mkhitaryan's back in there. Artem Frolov from ROC, 14-1, and he has 3 straight wins, and he beat the number 3 ranked guy in ROC, 30 years old. I think I'm gonna send this guy up. Yeah, 3 wins in a row, 14-1. I like that record. So Artem, welcome to the UFC. I will not be sending you back down when you resign. Middleweight division gets a new guy, very exciting. And Majima in the featherweight division, 6-1 in the UFC. You'd expect by now, and a 5-fight winning streak. You could expect by now he'd be ranked, and he should probably get a top 20 guy in his next fight. Sign him up for 5 more fights, and we'll see what Majima can do in his next go-around. Only 30 years old, so still a lot of time. Featherweight division has a new contender, Elizabeth Phillips now, from Invicta, coming off of a loss. But like I said earlier on, Invicta can always use more bodies, especially in the women's divisions where there's not a lot to go around. Elizabeth is signed back up, and we will be sending her back down to Invicta when she re-signs. Alright, next is Diana Belbita, coming off of a win last time out in that last video against Rin Nakai. Sign her up for a couple more fights. 3 fights is good. See if she can improve her status here in the UFC in the next coming fights. Yasuyuki Minabuchi, that's a mouthful, 2-4. Still very young, but hasn't really been able to do much in ROC. It's in the strawweight division, which I've been trying to get going, but it's not looking like he'll be a part of that moving forward. Give him a little bit of a release bonus, but you are out of here, sir. Mateus Browder, 4-3, also in the strawweight division, also coming off of a loss. And this is, we got a little bit of an injury issues, but he's 25, still fairly young. I'll go ahead and keep him, but just make sure to send him down. Mateus, there we go. Kind of a weird name for a guy from Louisiana. So now Elnar Ibragimov, coming off a loss his last time out, only 1-2 in the UFC after he was on like a 6-fight winning streak. So good. Sign him back up. Give him 4 more fights. If he doesn't do good in this time, he's only 24. Send him back to ROC, see what he can do. Nagatomo, 5-1, so doing pretty well for himself. He's a regen fighter, 32 years of age. See, like the regen fighters that they make in this game, they aren't necessarily all going to be like 18 years old, 19 years old. Some of them are like, just like in Daniel Cormier's case, like they didn't start fighting until they were like 32 already. So some of these regen fighters are generated at the age of like 30, 33, things like that. A little bit more realistic, but he's been able to do pretty well for himself. And he actually was the champion at a point in ROC, but I was like, 2-0, that's way too early into your career to bring you up. He immediately lost it. He's been able to climb himself back up, so, I mean, at 6-1, if he was able to win the title again, I might consider bringing him back up. But give him 4 more fights down in ROC. If you're able to gain the championship back, you'll definitely be in the UFC, sir. Amanda Rabi is currently the atomweight champion, and she will be fighting next for the UFC atomweight championship, as I can show you here. Macy Culberson is currently slated to fight April Lasenio for the atomweight championship, but I have a little thing because there's not necessarily a division, kind of like the UFC doesn't have a real featherweight division for the women, where it's kind of just I pick who fights for the title, I guess, and it's essentially been whoever is the Invicta atomweight champion at the time. So Amanda Robbie is the atomweight champion, and so she will be fighting next after Culberson for the title. Take a look at her. See, she fought against Asenio for the title already, but she was unsuccessful. She actually got TKO'd, but she's been able to win a fight in Invicta and then immediately, last time out, win the title back. So she gets another opportunity here, and she's been in Invicta for a while, so Invicta veteran, you could say. And I think, did I just already sign her up to Robbie? I have not yet done so. So I'll go ahead and sign her up. She will be fighting for the title soon, and then hopefully not have to go back down to Invicta. Ian McCall, I already gave him a contract, and Moldavsky has injured himself during the fight. So that is done with the emails and what's not. Let's see. I will go ahead and go through this fight night. We'll exit. Once it reaches Monday, I'll go through the rankings and talk about, some possible things, and we can finish booking those fights we needed to take care of earlier. So let's go ahead and move on to fight night. It's McDonald versus Garbrandt. In New Mexico here for the fight nights, Michael McDonald taking on Cody Garbrandt. A lot of other nice fights going on here, including a little undercard to look out for. As we move forward, Daniel Hooker taking on Oleg Borisov in the first prelim. Dan Hooker, of course, a really good prospect in real life in the UFC. Hasn't had a great time in this game save. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses and only 3 wins. So not having the greatest time is Dan Hooker, taking on Oleg Borisov. 3 and 4 in the UFC, coming off a loss. I'm going to take Hooker in this one. He's a minus 630 favorite, as he actually loses to Oleg Borisov via unanimous decision. So not sure what's going on with Hooker. He might be let go after this. Not looking very good. 19 and 13 is not a very sexy looking record in the UFC. As we move on, Nasrat Haqparast taking on Nikolai Gapanov. And a very even fight, it would seem. I kind of tempted to take the younger guy just simply because of the young age on a 2-fight winning streak. Take a look at Gapanov, however. 4 and 2 in the UFC, last being Jared Flash Gordon. And I think Haqparast will take it, as it's a unanimous decision victory for Gapanov. So he moves to 16-3-1. As we move right on along, Richie Hellboy Whitson taking on James Vick, who's had a tough go of it, losing to Gaethje recently. He was as high as number 6 in his division. Now not looking so good. 15-5, his record, coming off a win over Will Brooks. Richie Hellboy Whitson is 18-9, 4 and 3 in the UFC, coming off a win over Alexandris Shidate. Let's go ahead and sim this one. 37 years old versus 35. I think, it's saying that Whitson is the odds-on favorite, and he is. TKO's James Vick in the first round. So 19-9 for Whitson. As we move along to our next prelim, Tim the Dirty Bird Means taking on Ryan LaFleur. LaFleur, 38 years old. Both of them are 38 years old, in fact. And they're both wrestlers, so this isn't necessarily going to be the best fight entertainment-wise. Although it's a great fight, apparently, as LaFleur knocks out Tim Means in the first round. So 2 wrestlers have a fantastic, 3.5 minutes until Ryan LaFleur knocks him out. So a good win for LaFleur there, as we now have Walter the Black Sniper Gahadze taking on Magnus Siedenblad. I think Gahadze is in Cage Warriors. I'm not 100% sure. 19-6. He's 2-6 in the UFC. Has not had a good time here at all. He is definitely in danger of being cut. As you can see there, he was undefeated when I signed him, and he's just been absolutely terrible ever since he's come in. Siedenblad, 40 years old. He's not had the best of times either. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. This is essentially a loser gets fired fight. So we'll see what exactly happens, as it's going to be Walter Gahadze who takes it. TKO in round number 1, and you can wave goodbye to Magnus Siedenblad. He is going to be done after this fight. as Gahadze's happy to get a win under his belt for the first time in a while. Safarov versus Koshkin now. A couple Russians going at it. 35-year-old Safarov, 13-6, not the best record, but he's coming off 2 straight wins. And Andrei Koshkin, 21-9, 4-3 in the UFC with a 3-fight winning streak, and last over Corey Anderson. So I'm going to go ahead and take Andrei Koshkin in this one, despite him being an underdog, and he does in fact take it. 3 minutes into round number 1. So 4 fights under his belt now, 22-9 for Andrei Koshkin, a 4-fight winning streak, and you never know what can happen. As it's Luis KLB Enrique taking on Justin Buff Willis, Big Titty, as as Curtis Blades called him. Let's see what he's been up to. Coming off a win over Smolyakov, 10-4 is his overall record, and Enrique is 14-8-1, 6-7 in the UFC on a 3-fight winning streak. So he's doing pretty good for himself as of late, as Enrique actually gets the win. So a 4-fight winning streak now in the UFC for Enrique. Not against the best opponents, but I mean in a division like heavyweight, a 4-fight winning streak is still not something to be ashamed of. As we finally move on to the main show, and the first one is Gavin Tucker, 16-3, taking on Cole Miller. Cole Miller, a veteran of the UFC, coming off 2 straight wins. His last loss was to Do Ho Choi. Has been losing a lot to the prospects. Do Ho Choi, Damon Stasiak, Makashvili, Andre Fili, but beat Brian Ortega and Ricardo Lamas. So kind of just a rough go for him as he takes on Gavin Tucker, another, I want to say, prospect. He looks kind of young, but he's 35 years old, and he's coming off 3 straight wins. Surprised he's not ranked. Winner of this one probably will be ranked, as it's going to go to Gavin Tucker via TKO in round number 1, taking away Cole Miller. So he moves to 17-3, and hopefully he is ranked when we exit this. Chris Grutzmacher taking on Magomedsaguid Alibekov. So the man from Arizona taking on the Russian, who was a huge favorite. Number 25 ranked lightweight in the UFC. Coming off a loss to Maxim Divnich, who fought for the interim title recently, as Grutzmacher's on a 4-fight winning streak. So there's a reason that I booked this fight, and it's because of this 4-fight winning streak, and he last beat Eddie Alvarez via TKO. That's incredible. So don't count him out. He's been the underdog before, and I would not be surprised if Grutzmacher took this, as he does not. 41 seconds into round number 1, he gets dispatched easily by Alibekov. So perhaps it was a little bit of a fluke that Eddie Alvarez win, but I mean that happens sometimes, so you never know. And so now Alan Jouban taking on Andrei Koreshkov. Of course, Andrei Koreshkov, the only guy to really give Ben Askren some trouble before he met Masvidal. He's been doing okay for himself. You know, started out his UFC career 4-1. He's on a 2-fight losing streak right now, but to really good competition. So nothing to be ashamed of there, losing to Daichi Abe and Rory McDonald. And then Alan Jouban, 40 years old, is coming off a win. And I will take Koreshkov in this one, 31 years old, huge favorite, as he does win via TKO in round number 1. Next is going to be Thales Leites taking on Arduino Aris. Interesting to see here because Thales Leites is very old, 31-12. BJJ practitioner, coming off 3 straight losses to some quality opponents. And Aris, 9-3, was in ROC for a little bit, or Invicta I should say, and he won the ROC middleweight title. Brought him up 2 straight losses to begin, but he's on a 3-fight winning streak now. And so taking on Thales Leites here, and is not a huge underdog, as Aris actually defeats him by unanimous decision. So a big win for the prospect there, moves up to 10-3. Leites now on a 4-fight losing streak at 40 years of age. Wouldn't be surprised if he hung it up here, and he doesn't. So Leites still wants to give it a go, as we are now at the co-main events. And it's the young man from the Philippines, Rolando Dai, taking on Zabit Magomedsharipov. And so Zabit having a good time here. has been ranked nearly the entire time. Has wins over Unisilao, Christian Lee, Yair Rodriguez, Makashvili. Surprised he hasn't fought for the title yet. Just a kind of a coincidence thing, I'd imagine, as Rolando Dai has been recently ranked on a 3-fight winning streak. Number 17 in the UFC. Huge favorite is Zabit. I will take him, as he does in fact win in round 2. And he gives some respect to Dai as we move on to our main events of the evening. Michael Mayday McDonald, former UFC bantamweight title holder, against another former champion in Cody No Love Garbrandt. Very even fight, this one. Take a look at what Michael McDonald's been up to. Coming off 2 straight losses to Ricardo Ramos and Thomas Almeida. Win over Uriah Faber, Magic Marlon Moraes, Eddie Wineland lost to Dominic Cruz. And he was in Bellator before I signed him up earlier on in this game save. Cody Garbrandt, still just 30 years of age. Went on a little bit of a tear here. 3-fight winning streak over John Dodson, Rafael Assunção, and Eduardo Dantas. He started out the save not in the best way. There you can see, where is it at here? Yes. So he lost to Eddie Wineland, lost to Brett Johns, went on a little 2-fight winning streak, lost to John Lineker and Tom Duquesnoy. But, I mean, they're all quality losses, and he's still up here. Number 6 bantamweight in the UFC. And Michael McDonald is the number 8 bantamweight in the UFC. So, a really good top 10 action here. And it's the main event of this UFC fight night. As we move right along into round number 1, as they are coming together to strike. And you know everything about Cody Garbrandt and his striking. In his last fight against Pedro Munoz, he just wouldn't let up, just wanted to strike, just tried to throw right hands right at Munoz, and ended up costing him as he got knocked out. Just ridiculous. He was doing really well too. As Garbrandt knocked down, McDonald's trying to do it away, as McDonald's going to take it via TKO. Just 12 seconds left to go in round number 1, too, as Michael Mayday McDonald dispatches of Cody Garbrandt in the main event. Definitely will be looking for a top 5 fight next. Cody Garbrandt, another loss under his name. As we are done here with McDonald versus Garbrandt. No popularity changes, as I'm already too popular, literally at 100% in most of the regions. Profit of $1.5 million from that show. Top earners from that show were Michael McDonald, Zabit, and Cody Garbrandt. Not making all that much money. Michael McDonald $164K, Zabit made $100K, Garbrandt made $84K. It's kind of criminal how much these guys are making, if I'm being honest, but that's how it goes sometimes. As we are going to simulate up to this Monday, we're going to update our rankings and take a look at them and see what possible fights we can make next after this. Go through our emails and we'll call it a day after I show you what our next fight night is going to be. Again, today, it's Friday. I'm off of work today, so I got some time to record some videos. And I'm very excited because late tonight is going to be the UFC fight night in China. So I'm going to be staying up all night watching that, and very excited because I want to see if Weili Zhang can win. I think she has a chance to, and she better, because I put some money down on her too. But I think it's going to be a great fight. You know, I was there in Vegas for her fight against Tisha Torres, and she really impressed me. She impressed everyone there. It's kind of weird that she's getting a title fight this early into her UFC career. Only 3 wins, but I think it's kind of just a matter of circumstance. You know, they're in China. Jessica Andrade needed an opponent. Joanna's not really ready. Michelle Waterson, despite her being popular, she's nowhere ready. So they're probably thinking, if I'm the UFC, I'm probably thinking, why not? We're in China. We can throw this girl into a title fight. If she wins, that's great. We have a Chinese champion. Think of the untapped market there is in China for for money for MMA and things like that. Like you get a Chinese champion on the UFC, they're gonna fucking love her. They're gonna buy all the T-shirts. They're gonna buy all the pay-per-views. Like that's what the UFC is thinking, and it's smart because Weili Zhang's no scrubs. Like she has a chance to win this fight, and I hope she does. All right, so drug results. Everyone passed cleanly from our last show. That is very, very good news. New Mickey Gall home. He's leaving his gym and going to a new one. Take a look here, see if there's anyone to look out for as far as contracts. 24 and 13, no. Not really much going on here, as I think that will be it. Yep. So let's take a look at our emails. Let's update our rank. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that first. Let's move over to our rankings, and let's update them. Alright, so they're all updated. So now, when we go into our emails and take a look at everybody, we can see their updated rankings. Alrighty, so Andrei Koreshkov needs to be renewed. We will definitely do that, coming off a win, of course. And as you can see there, he's the number 20 welterweight in the UFC. Very good for him. You get another 4 fights. See if you can climb your way up the rankings. Sean Brady, these are all just guys that need to be re-signed. I do not want to lose Gadella, so I'll take a look at that. She's seriously considering more than one offer. Let's see. Wow, KSW and Ryzen offering her big fucking money. Well, that sucks because I want to keep her, so I'm going to have to pay. So let's go 9 fights. 9 fights. And let's go... Fuck it. Let's go straight 200K per fight. And she says that's the best offer. 9 fights at 200K, so I'm basically saying I'm going to give her at least $1.8 million is what I'm saying. That's a big commitment, but one that I'm willing to make. She's still fairly young, 33 years old. She's still got 9 fights left in her, so I don't mind it at all. Plus, I got money to blow, so I really, really don't mind. Aris coming off that win over Thales Leites, 10-3, not ranked, but he's still got a lot to go left in him, so 4 more fights for Mr. Aris. Alright, Gahadze. Well, he's coming off a win, but he has not looked very good, and all of his wins have been over trash people, so we're going to sign Walter, and we're going to send him down to ROC. See, should I even, though? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to sign Walter back up, and we're going to send him down to ROC. Alright, so now Walter needs to be sent back down. And that kind of sucks. He's coming off a win, but it's over someone as shitty as Siedenblad, so it's not really like it's anything much to be celebrated. Unlike Richie Whitson, coming off a win over James Vick, has a little winning streak under his belt, has won 5 out of his last 6. Lightweight division is serious, though, so it's kind of hard to get ranked there. So he gets 4 more fights. See if he can do a little something extra. Tim Means coming off a loss. He's coming off a loss. 2 wins, 3 losses. 38 years old, but he's still a veteran. Still someone that can be used to gauge the skill level of these prospects. Justin Willis coming off that loss. Heavyweights are hard to come by, so I'll go ahead and give him another 3 fights. I'll only really cut someone if they're completely despicable, like a 4 or 5 fight losing streak and they just show no promise at all. Alan Joban, 40 years of age, has lost 5 out of his last 6. See, this is a situation where I'm not even going to send him down to ROC. He's 40 years old. He doesn't really have anything to prove, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut Alan Joban. Good luck, sir. 40 years of age. Maybe it's time to retire. This is not for you. You will not be in the UFC any further, as we are done with the emails. So let's go ahead and take a look at our rankings, take a look at our next fight night, and then we will sign off. Going to our rankings, No change in the heavyweight division. Harrison Magallanes. Oh, and that's right. We still have to book that fight. Those a couple of fights we needed to book. Harrison Magallanes, the champion. No movement at all. Light heavyweight division. We have two new guys in the rankings. Andrei Koshkin, who we just saw, beat Safarov. Of course, he's on a nice 4-fight winning streak, so it's nice to see him get ranked now. Number 25 in the UFC. Michael Oleksiejczuk, last beating Mo Lawal on a 3-fight winning streak himself, is now the number 24 ranked light heavyweight. In the middleweight division, we had a lot of movement actually. Probably someone that dropped out, if I'm being honest. So Powell, Johnny Hendricks, Ebihara, Brunson, Wilkinson, Whitaker. Whitaker has been terrible in this game. Of course, the middleweight champion now, he's been absolutely terrible. He had a 6-fight losing streak to begin the save. And so I've had to put him against some like really shitty opponents just to get him wins because he's been absolutely terrible. I don't get it. Nonetheless, that's Robert Whitaker, number 23 ranked middleweight in the UFC. You can see Trevin Giles, who hasn't really been doing all that well in real life in the UFC, is the number 2 ranked middleweight. Last beat Chris Weidman. Of course, Adesanya, the number 3 ranked middleweight, but he will be taking on Costa next for the middleweight title. Big fan of his. Hope he can beat Whitaker. So that's the middleweight division. Luke Rockhold, number 17. Gastelum, number 7 after his last win. Any other names that kind of stick out? Yannick Bahati, Hector Lombard, number 8. All right. Welterweight division, some movement at the top. Nico Price, of course, will move down after losing to Maxim Butorin in his last fight. And Butorin stays at number 12. That's kind of interesting, considering he just beat Nico Price. Probably more just because of everyone else that is so highly ranked. Mike Perry moves up. GSP, who was still fighting, moves up. Last fight was against Rory McDonald. Joey Davis will move up. Tyron Woodley moves up. Lawler, Abe, and then Luque. And Koreshkov is now ranked at number 20 in the UFC, as we saw earlier. Lightweight division, Ali Bekhoff moves up a lot. Now the number 18 ranked lightweight. See what he was at earlier? He was not ranked. Not ranked at all. Or he was like the number 25, I believe. But Ali Bekhoff now number 18, so top 20. And he will definitely be getting a top 20 opponent in his next fight out. So very good for Magomed Saigid, if that's how you pronounce his name. Tony Ferguson, number 22 in the lightweight division. He's had a pretty rough go of it in this save as well, coming off 2 straight losses to Carrington Banks and Sage Northcutt. And the reason is because I think he got popped for steroids. He got popped for steroids really early on, and he just wasn't able to recover. Got a win over Eddie Alvarez, but who hasn't been beating Alvarez recently? Lost to Banks, lost to Northcutt. Now he's here. No fight scheduled, and he's out for another month or so. So we'll give you a little update on him. Sage Northcutt, number 8. Of course, he just lost recently very badly in 1FC. But that is the movements in the lightweight division. Stephen Ray, of course, number 1, who will be taking on Habib for the lightweight title in the near future. Featherweight division movements. Zabit moves up to the top 10. Very nice to see from Zabit after getting that win over Rolando Dye. Moving up, Gavin Tucker is in fact ranked number 21 after beating Cole Miller, so nice to see. Very deserving after a 4-fight winning streak. Rolando Dye will move down to number 25. Crawford, McKee, Nevis, and Freire will move up. Lee, Ortega, Bilharino, and Temerov move down. In the bantamweight division, Michael McDonald, now number 6, essentially taking Cody Garbrandt's spots. Garbrandt down to 9. Evloev moves up to 8. Flyweight division, Ulan Bekhoff moves down a little bit after losing to Bruno Acevedo, who does not move at all. Sergio Pettis moves up to number 9. Women's featherweight, no movements. As you can see, only 14 fighters in the entire effing division. Bantamweights, no movement whatsoever. Women's flyweight, no movement whatsoever. Women's strawweight, a new number 25, as it's Xiaonan Yan. And that might just be because of inactivity or something like that. Women's atomweight, you can see just 2 fighters. Culberson will be taking on Osenio for the title at some point, and that is the update on the rankings. So that is just about going to do it for us here for this episode. A smaller episode, a little less time than last time, but always nice to keep you guys updated. I will be right back with Saturday of week 3, 5 days away, Gaethje versus Ismagulov. Justin Gaethje, number 5 ranked in the world versus number 16, number 2 versus number 11. Very tough fight for Gaethje to take, a very risky fight, I should say, but he's coming off the loss to Michael Chandler in that title fight, so he needs to get a win under his belt. Ismagulov with something to prove, being number 11. I believe he's on a 5 fight winning streak after losing to Will Brooks, so he has a lot of things to prove as well. Most recently defeating number 18 and number 12, or number 8 in the world as well. So Ismagulov going for broke here against number 2 in the world, and it's going to be in Manitoba, Canada. Also on the card, Vidal Gallier taking on Corey Hendricks, Gilbert Burns taking on Alan Patrick, Justin Rader taking on Mateus Matos. Remember, we had to book that one on the fly. Here's the prelims. Piotr Yan taking on Amir Albazi for the prelim headliner. And so let's go ahead and see if we can book the rest of this. We know this heavyweight title fight is ready to go. So Magallanes versus Big Ben Rothwell for the UFC heavyweight title. The draw is High Level International. It would be a superb event. Very even fight it looks like too. So that's going to be a great one. And that one is officially booked. Alistair Overeem cannot be booked yet with his opponents. And let's see, is there anyone else here that needs to be booked? Just making 100% sure. Not looking like it. Nope. Alright, Yankova. I think it's Mackenzie Dern. Yep, Mackenzie Dern and Anastasia Yankova. Is officially booked. So let's go ahead and get that one. It's the co-main event for Ruth versus Breeze in Italy. Alright, it's nothing else left to book here. Philip DeFries, heavyweight division. Still have to wait on that one as well. Campman versus Magny. Nothing left to book there. And in the prelims on this one, Marina Morosh, Paige Van Zant. Maybe I don't think I want to give her. I think it was Natalia Silva, yeah, that I wanted to give her. Yep, so Natalia Silva and Marina Morosh is officially booked now. Number 11 versus number 13. Nice top 15 action going on there. And that is all we can book for right now. So like I said, broadcast on the UFC Network. We will be back with Gaethje versus Ismagulov. And then after that, in the next week, it's UFC 272, big card, 3 title fights, a huge main card, even better prelims. These pay-per-views are always stacked, and I'm happy to bring it to you. So we'll be back next time with Gaethje versus Ismagulov. This has been AZ Playout 21. Thank you guys for stopping by.